The next story comes under the topic Any Medics on Board, subtitled Getting Your Lick Back. It was a mid afternoon flight from Newark to Orlando. Service had just wrapped up, and we were settling in for that quiet stretch of the flight, aside from our usual 10-minute walkthroughs. I was on my jump seat snacking on a few things I grabbed from the service cart. Please don't judge, a girl's gotta eat. Reading my favorite genre, horror, I was deep in a novel on my Kindle, secretly hoping the annoying protagonist would finally get killed off in the worst possible way, because I was just so and completely over him. The lead flight attendant was up front flirting with the older gentleman in 1A, clearly hoping to find herself a sugar daddy, or to be politically correct, a glucose guardian. She had spotted the Amex black card. If you know, you know. The flight attendant working in the back was knitting a tiny hat for a niece that hadn't even been born yet. Go figure. And the other flight attendant, whose obsessive compulsive tendency we all lovingly tolerated, was in the front galley organizing supplies and folding trash bags military style. You know how they fold the flags? Exactly. That's what he was doing. Then we heard it. Ding ding. A flight attendant call button. We all instinctively checked our AIPs to see which seat it was and who was closest. Of course, I drew the short straw. So I got up to see what the passenger needed. As I approached row 22 on the left side of the aircraft, I stopped in my tracks. A petite woman was straddling a very large gentleman in seat 22A, slapping the absolute life out of his face and screaming, "Wake up! Wake up! Wake up!" I looked at the passenger sitting next to them for some explanation. She said she doesn't know. She kept slapping him. Apparently he passed out, she said calmly. And I guess that's his girlfriend or wife. I'm not really sure. The woman kept slapping him hysterically, screaming louder by the second, "Wake up! Wake up!" At this point, I tried to get her to stop so I could actually assess the situation, but she was in full panic mode. So I hit the call button for assistance. Another flight attendant came up from the back just as I gently grabbed the woman's hands and pulled her off the passenger. I handed over to the other flight attendant, no pun intended. I said, "Just take her to the back. She's not helping here." The flight attendant went into the back and immediately made the announcement, "Ladies and gentlemen, if there's a medic on board, please ring your flight attendant call button." Within seconds, an EMT appeared beside me. We checked the passenger. His eyes were opening, but his head was slowly rolling from side to side. We gave him smelling salts from the medical kit. The reaction was immediate. He jerked awake, looked around at all of us hovering over him and asked, "What's going on?" I looked at him and said, "You're what's going on." I explained that he had passed out and hadn't been responding. He admitted he had taken something to relax before the flight. I won't exactly say what that something was, but let's just say it didn't come from CVS or Walgreens. The EMT checked him out and determined he would be fine. Then the man asked something that almost made me laugh. "Why does both sides of my face feel sore?" Out of abundance of caution, I told him I wasn't sure. The passenger sitting next to him offered to keep an eye on him in case he passed out again. I headed to the back to start my report when I remembered the girlfriend or wife, not sure. I told her he was awake and asking for her. Her eyes immediately filled with panic. "What's wrong?" I asked. That's when I noticed, underneath the concealer, what looked like a black eye. I quietly told her, "Well, I didn't tell him you were slapping the crap out of him, if that's any consolation." She sighed and said it was all pent-up anger. She had warned him not to take that something. I took her hands and mouthed quietly, "Do you need help?" She whispered back, "I don't have anyone else, but I'll be okay. Besides, I did get some of my licks back in." I smiled gently. She went back to her seat. Later, during final compliance before landing, I slipped her a napkin with the human trafficking hotline and domestic abuse hotline number written on it, but I wrote the digits in pairs of twos from top to bottom so it wouldn't look like a phone number, just some random numbers written on a napkin if someone saw it. I made eye contact with her and nodded. "If you guys needed anything before we land, just let me know." She said thank you and turned away. That happened 5 years ago, and sometimes I still wonder if she ever left that abusive man. But at least that day, she did got her licks back in.